morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special Accrington Stanley Legends interview from across the pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and as always with our Legends shows, after the intro, I'm going to be turning things over to our historians, Darren Woodhead and Tony Robinson. And today we have a man who played in the very first historic 1970 game from Accrington Stanley when the club was refounded. And if you have the Accrington Stanley trading cards or Darren's book, 50 Years of Accrington Stanley, you'll know that historic game came against Formby. So welcome to the show, Brian Pemberton. We're very excited to talk to you here today. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Yeah,
Great to speak to you. I know it's took a while to line it up, and we're all in different parts of the world. And we've got two Lancashire lads on the line now. We both reside in Canada, Tony and Brian, and then we've got Phil in Arizona, and me in sunny Baxenden. So we're just going to have a bit of football chat and have a bit of a laugh, hopefully. So go on, Brian. What were your first memories about Accrington Stanley? I suppose the Peel Park days, were they?
The first memories of Accrington Stanley? Well, that was early days. I started watching Stanley around 1952. A kid of about, how old would I be, 8 then? And I was living at the top end of Bold Street. And the first memory I do have of Accrington Stanley was thousands and thousands of men and some ladies walking up Bold Street, Stanley Street, on their way up to Peel Park. Saturday afternoon, it was incredible. And then I would probably 2 or 3 of the lads from around that area we'd go up the coppice because we couldn't afford to go in Stanley, and we'd watch it from the coppice. And we occasionally we got brave and sneaked down, and we'd climb over the wall, and we got kicked out a few times, but it was worth it. It was they were legends, these guys, and we just wanted to be there. And the fun thing was, or the good thing was, if you stayed long enough, last 15 minutes they used to open the gate, and we used to get in and for free and watch the game from the last 15 minutes. Great times, lots of good memories.
Some good players back in the day, didn't they, in the 50s as well, and Walter Galbraith's team, and legends, weren't they, in Accrington?
Well, they were for me. You know, Walter Galbraith, he was a legend himself, and he brought in players like, you know, John Ryden and Les Cocker, Harold Bodle, Charlie Snedden, and then later on he pulled in guys like Eddie Hunter, Charlie Wright, and the new goalkeeper Tommy McQueen. And then, of course, he brought in George Stewart, and that was a different world. He was just a player all by himself. He was incredible. He could head the ball as hard as he could kick it, and he was a team by himself, a different player in a different category.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on, he brought in Watty Dick and Gordon Stolz and my buddy Bob McNichol.
Right.
And then a friend of mine, Willie Miller, who I got to know really well. So yeah, they were good days.
Yeah. So what about playing football, Brian? How did it start with playing? Playing for local teams, etc.
Well, we are going back now. Other than school, I started off at St. Anne's School, and then went on to the Tech up Aussie. And the Scouts, I was actually in a Scouts football team, because the Scouts had a league when we were kids, and that was good. But as far as proper organised, the youth league in Accrington, I think we were 13 years old, maybe 14 years old, and a bunch of us around Bold Street. We had a whole pile of young players, and we formed a team. and played in the Accrington Youth League. And there probably won't be anybody remember it, but the name of our team was Pegasus. We were flying horses. We were good kids at that time. Yeah. The only problem was they put us on a field up Aussie at Whiteash. So we had to go every Saturday morning from Bold Street, catch the bus up Aussie, to mark out the field, because in those days they didn't mark the field out for you. You had to do it yourself. And I remember a couple of us would go up with a big sack and get off the bus at James Street, walk down James Street to a carpenter's shop and get a big sack full of sawdust. Now, I guess kids today wouldn't even think of things like that, but we had to mark the field out on Saturday morning, hand mark it out with piles of sawdust. Incredible. Yeah, I remember one day it was so windy we didn't have any lines at all. They just blew away. But they were good days, happy days.
Well, Brian, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and we have a lot in common. Not only we both, this is the first time I think we've had two people on the program from that live in Canada, and we're both from Accrington. And you mentioned Bold Street, and I lived on Stanley Street, just at the top, a corner of Surrey Street and Stanley Street before we moved to Avenue Parade. And my granddad, who lived on Stanley Street in the semi-detached houses, used to walk over with the crowds to go and watch Stanley play. So anyway, it brings back a bit of memories when you talk about Bold Street and places like that. Well, but what sort of interests me is, then when you come to be involved with Stanley, not only watching it, but how did it come about when you got to sign for them when they reformed? How did that take place?
When they reformed, or when I first signed on with Stanley?
Well, when did you first sign on, and then obviously they became, they started up again in '68. But when did you first sign on?
Well, the team I just mentioned, Pegasus, we only lasted 1 year going to Aussie and marking out the fields, and after that, several of us joined St Augustine's Youth Club up on Court. And they had a field right next to the youth club. And at that time, Willie Miller, who was an Accrington Stanley player, he used to come over to the youth club and practice train us, like a coach. And so we entered the youth league and with Willie Miller's team. St Augustine's, and I remember one of the first games I played against Eric Wally. He was playing with English Electric boys. Excuse me. And that's where I met Eric the first time, and I met him several times playing football later on, but he was a good player. Eric was a very good player, had skills. He was a little on the heavy side, but that was okay. He used his skills, and he was a great player. Anyway, what happened was Willie Miller, he was also coaching Accrington Stanley youth team, which I'd never heard of. I'd never heard of Accrington Stanley having a youth team. But I think it was 58, 59, they did have a youth team, and Willie took... myself and Alan Worzick, actually, from St Augustine's, the two of us, to play in the youth team. Alan was more into cricket, as most of the people will remember, but we did play in that first youth team game. Unfortunately, it was just one game. We lost 2-1, and that was the end of the youth team. But I also remember that year, I must have been 15 then. Willie gave us a call and said the A team are playing and they need a couple of players. And so would you and Alan show up? Well, jeepers, yeah, we were there instantly. And we actually went to play in Manchester against Manchester United. And that was at the Shea, I remember. And it was the last game of the season, so the the person in charge told us, well, these guys are a real good team, and they just got to beat us today, and they're going to win the league. Well, unfortunately for them, we tied 2-2, and that was my first playing in an Accrington Stanley shirt. It was great, just like what you dream of as a kid. The following year, I played with the reserves, a lot of games, and that carried on right through to 1962, February. The last game we played in the reserves was against, I think it was Droylsden or Bursker, one of them teams. We lost 3-1. I remember I did score in that game, but that was the end of it. And then the disaster of Stanley folding. That was the beginning and the end of it all. The end of it all for me.
But when you were involved in that match with Formby, what was the memories that you have of the build-up and leading up to that game, and the significance of it? Did that make an impact on you?
Oh, jeepers! I couldn't wait. Like, I was playing with Great Harwood at that time. I went over to Great Harwood when Stanley sort of folded again, when the reformed team of 64. It was okay, but it wasn't Accrington Stanley, and Willie asked me to go to Great Harwood, and I was happy to go to Great Harwood. I spent 5 good years there, and then I heard Accrington Stanley standing up again. Well, I was instantly interested, and not only interested, I was definitely going over there, and Jimmy called, and that was it for me. I was Accrington Stanley bound again, and it was nice to see some of the players that you knew, show up and get involved with his team. It was a dream come true for me. The field was rubbish, but it really didn't matter, because we just wanted to be Accrington Stanley again.
Yeah, so obviously there's some decent players got pulled together, didn't they, for that first team, Brian? Dave Barron and Stuart Illingworth, some good non-league players.
It was good. Some of the players that you knew from playing in the Lancashire combination before, Mel Widdop, and Stuart. He was really well known in the Accrington combination, playing with Winnie Hill there, and Dave Barron, of course, and some of the other lads. Yeah, it was good to know they were going to be there, because you knew you had a nucleus of a fair team, for the combination. I don't recall any big practices or team talks or anything. I think Jimmy's main job at that time was to get a good player for each position, and he knew that these guys were experienced enough in that league to make the team tick, and I think we did. I think it was a pretty good show, and to win that first game, that was important. And it was. Unfortunately for me, it didn't last long, because I was playing left wing. I remember playing left wing, and played 4 or 5 games, and then for some reason, and I don't know why, but our fullback had to go away somewhere, or he had to be replaced. And Jimmy, who knew I'd played right fullback at Harwood a few times, he called me and said, "You're moving from left wing to right back," and it didn't matter. I didn't care where I played as long as I was playing. And I played several games at fullback, and then I got the worst injury I've ever had. I ruptured my right thigh, and I had to go off at half time, which was never done. If I could walk, I'd play, but I couldn't walk after this one. And I had to go to the physio at Accrington, Stanley's physio on Whalley Road there for twice a week for 6 months, and I didn't actually kick a ball for 2 years after that. It was, to me, it was a disaster, but the Stanley moved on, and Stanley did really well, and that was the main thing. Yeah.
Just, I wanted to ask about that first team when you mentioned Jimmy Inksman. Did he have his son playing on that team at the same time, David Inksman, Brian? No?
No, David didn't come along until he may have played later on in that season and the following season, but he didn't play in that first game. In fact, the team in that first game, Terry Ty actually played in that first game, ex-Accrington Stanley Peel Park player. Dave Barron, of course, and Alan Davis, Stuart Illingworth, Nuttall, Benny Newell. Jimmy Hicksman's lad. He came later on.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because in that 69, 1970, I went to College of Further Education for a year, and David was in a couple of my classes. So, and I remember him saying his dad was looking after Stanley, and he was going to, he was training with them, or going to be a part of that. So that's why I kind of remembered that name, and I was just interested if obviously you knew of him, but
he was just a young kid. I think he was only like 15 years old at that time.
Yeah, he would be, because that was 15. He would 15 when I met him, and because I left Accrington in 1970 and I was 16, so he would have been 15, 16, so a bit too young to be in the first team, but obviously his dad must have saw something in him anyway. So
yeah, he was a good player, and there were several other players that came over to Accrington afterwards that I knew from Great Yarmouth. Mick McHugh, he was a good player, was Mick, good centre half, and Dave McDowell, he came a couple of years later. They were good players. They all helped Accrington, and they moved on. I was on crutches, and the team was doing well, so it was good.
Well, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we do have a spot here in the middle where we take a little bit of a break from football talk and ask some fun questions. And this part, it was the invention of Tony Robinson. And Tony, he really needs a lot of credit here, because this has been by far the most popular segment on the show. I mean, we have people calling in from all around the world wanting to know what the next rapid fire questions will be. So, man. Tony, I'm going to turn the mic over to you for the now world famous rapid fire.
Oh, my face is the same color as a Stanley Holmes shirt now. Just build it up and build it up. Anyway, sorry about that intro, Brian. We're back to some fun questions, and it really started out more of a sort of a north versus south because of players that were signing with Stanley, and we want to sort of test their knowledge of the North. And we're going to start off with an old favorite. Do you prefer mushy or garden peas?
Oh, mushy.
Well, I know I'm going to be able to tick off the first four questions because all Lancashire lads say the same answers, but we'll give you a chance to. The next one is red or brown sauce on your bacon sandwich.
Brown. Come on, you don't eat red stuff with it.
He's bang on, so batting 1,000. Black pudding with your full English.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Even without the full English, I'll eat black pudding.
Yeah. Would you have gravy on your chips? Yes or no?
No.
No gravy on your chips.
No gravy on chips. Sometimes a bit of curry, but.
Okay, let's turn to music. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Say that again.
Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Oh, Beatles. Sorry, Beatles.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to the band Chilliwack?
No.
Okay, the reason I ask is I think you live in Chilliwack, right?
I live in Chilliwack.
They might have been retired, but they're a band from back in the 70s, so they probably.
I remember them.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Do you have a favorite film you like to watch?
No. No favorite films. I just like the old war films and a good cowboy now and again. I'm not into this lovey-dovey stuff.
No.
I don't generally watch anything unless there's some kind of sports in it.
Oh.
What's your favorite takeaway?
Favorite takeaway? Chinese.
If you were
by far our most popular answer, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a good one. You can't go wrong with Chinese, can you? If you were in the lounge after a Stanley win, would you have Aki Ale or would you have a pint of lager?
Oh, Aki Ale.
Hey, good man.
Yeah.
These are perfect answers so far. I think it's like you said, Tony, batting 1,000.
Yeah. Is there a stadium when you're in your playing days? Is there a stadium you played in that you would say was your favorite?
Favorite stadium to play in? What do you mean my playing days? I still play.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Favorite stadium to play in? Beale Park, definitely.
Yeah.
The old Beale Park. That was my favorite every time. I mean, I went to. I'm digressing here a bit. I went to Liverpool to watch Stanley play in '63. That was a brilliant stadium. The one place I've been to that I really enjoyed was Wembley. I went to watch United play in '68 in the European Cup final against Benfica.
Oh, wow.
That was brilliant. That was a brilliant. I came away with a trophy. After the game, we went into the Wembley Hotel, and the place was so busy, you were stood out on the road. And I just pulled whatever it was, 10 bob out of my pocket, tapped the guy on front and said 4 pints, and that 10 bob went right to the bar, and 5 minutes later, 4 pints came over the top. You know, you'd never do that today, but in those days, we knew we were going to get the pints eventually, and then I was bad. I brought one home with me, and I still have it today.
Oh.
So that's a trophy. It has a big W on it, so yeah, it was good.
My last
favorites.
My last question was, at Beale Park, how sort of on the tilt how bad was it at Beale Park?
How what? Sorry?
It was on the sort of the ground wasn't level, was it? It was sort of running from Beale Park up to the Coppice way. It looked like it had a bit of a run on it.
A little bit. Nothing to worry about. I played on a lot worse. It did. They say it had one, but I never noticed. I was just so happy to get out there and play. I tell you what they did have though. They didn't have showers. They had humongous baths in there. I remember first time as a 15, 16-year-old kid going in there and after the game, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, where's the showers? And then guys came in and just jumped into these. They were about, 8 feet by 6 feet, and there was 2 of them. And I just slid in there, 16-year-old kid, and I look up, and who's facing me from the other side? Bob McNichol, and I go, oh my goodness, I don't know whether I should speak to him or not, because he was one of my heroes. And a couple of minutes later, he looked at me and he said, hey lad. I said, yes sir. He said, hey, you wash your face yet? And I said, no. I said, you're too late, I just passed on it. So I knew I was one of the lads after that. It was. Yeah,
I remember those changing rooms. I went to Beale Park School, and they were still intact. We were using them in '70s, and I know what you're talking about, Brian. And baths, they were still in there.
That was neat.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, right, just moving on. Thanks for persevering with us. We all the rapid fire questions. You got a good old Lancashire answers in every one of them. So we knew where we were going with that one. So, right, going on to Canada. So you like Tony, you ended up moving to Canada in the 70s. I noticed when I was looking at a bit of research, the Observer ran a feature on you leaving, and quite a big thing at the time. People going overseas. How did all that come about, Brian?
Well, it all started, obviously, with me getting injured, because I don't think we would have gone so soon if I'd have been still playing with Stanley. But I knew, in 74, I was still struggling a little bit. I'd started to kick a ball around with Aussie St. Mary's, and I thought, well, you know what, there's no chance of me going back to Accrington now, so to Stanley, right? So we'd talked about it, and we decided, yeah, well, I had a sister living over here, and so we packed the bags and sold the house, and we headed over there, and we landed here on the 1st of July, Canada Day, 1974. And it was a struggle for a couple of years, because, you have to get a job and you have to find your own way around. And we didn't like where we were, just outside Vancouver. So we traveled up the Fraser Valley for, 30, 40, 50 miles, and we found Chilliwack, and it's right in the mountains, a beautiful place. So I said, that's it. That's where we're going. And that's where we ended up. And fortunately, they had a football team here, and I got involved with that and started coaching them and playing with them, and that team's still around today. So it was good. It was good.
Who's that team, Brian? What's the team?
Chilliwack soccer team.
Chilliwack soccer team, right? Well, we'll have to. Yeah, I'm sure they're on Twitter or something. We'll have to give them a shout out. Yeah.
And the good thing about it was that as you got older, we had an over 40s team, and then we had an over 50s team, and now we have an over 60s team. So I'm still able to play, and we get out every Sunday morning. And it sort of took a break last year with the COVID, but we're back. We're back in practice now, and playing some scrimmage games and exhibition games. So I hope to get myself in a bit of better shape, and carry on playing. So.
Wow, good effort.
Other things I enjoy doing are fishing. I love fishing, and we got lots of it around here, and canoeing. I go up to the Yukon to visit my eldest girl. Well, we do, and that's another thing that's a big bonus. We're able to stay up there for weeks on end, and we just love it over here. We go down to Mexico. I love it in Mexico. We're cruising up to Alaska. It was a good move, I think, and we haven't sort of looked back. It's as Tony knows, it's a different life over here, but you can get used to it.
Oh yeah, I think there's similarities in the sense that we came over because my mom had cousins, and we moved over to Kingston, Ontario, and that's where we sort of settled. And being a young lad, 16 years old, it was quite an adjustment, especially going to school. And I remember when you talked about playing football back in those days, soccer. As soon as you went and kicked the ball, they knew you were from England, because you had a little bit better skill set than most. And I was playing at 16. I was playing with men 18, 19, 20 years old, and they were rough players back in those days. And I come away with a few injuries. But when you talk about being in the same country, I think it's. I'm looking at the map. If I wanted to drive over to Chilliwack to sort of play on a Sunday morning with Brian, it would take me something like 45 hours to drive. So I think there's, people don't realize we're in the same country, but it's you might as well be around the other side of the world. And you're where you are, Brian, is I haven't been, but what I've seen is beautiful country, and it's a lot different than here in Ontario.
Yeah, well, we're one of my favorite trips, and if you've got any canoeists listening, they should pull up on their internet the Bowron Lakes, BOWRON. It's an 80-mile wilderness canoe trip. I've done it 10 times, so I really enjoy it, and it's a big bonus. I love canoeing and hiking and anything outdoorsy.
Did you ever get involved following hockey or any of the Canadian football, or did you ever get that? Did that ever interest you at all?
Hockey, the only hockey I used to see was the girls in their grass skirts up at IMSs or something like that. I don't get involved in hockey. It's a great sport, and you know everybody's dead keen on it over there. But no, if the Canucks ever got to the final, then I would probably watch it. But no, I'm not a football as in American football. I don't watch that. I just concentrate on outdoors life and English football.
I've been getting a little bit excited about the Montreal Canadiens, seeing them make a run. They're just such a historic team. And actually, before the Coyotes came to Phoenix, Montreal was my team because I was a big Patrick Roy fan. So I know we're getting a little off subject here, but great to see Montreal, and I'm sure Tony will agree with that. Although, as a Maple Leafs guy, you probably aren't a Montreal fan.
No, and I think we'll just skip that topic because I wanted. No, I'm not excited at all about Montreal. I hope Vegas wins that one. But one last question I wanted to ask before I flip it back over to Darren is: Do you manage to get back to Accrington much, Brian, at all?
We would travel. We've been here now since '74. That's 84, 95, 40 odd years. We started off going back every 2-3 years. Then when we lost our parents, of course, it sort of went to maybe every 4 years. But we definitely are needing a trip to Accrington, Oswald Twistle, because we haven't been for 4 years now, and it's time to go. Definitely, yeah. We love it when we come back. I managed to take in 2 or 3 Stanley games, and so yeah, we did.
Yeah, well, I try. I mean, once I retired, I was able to look at going back, and up till COVID, I was going back every September, October for a few matches. And you mentioned Great Hallwood because my dad's from Great Hall, and that's where we stay. And another thing we had in common, we both went to St. Anne's, so we've got our paths. We've got a lot of things in our history that sort of connect there, Brian. So it's nice to sort of to talk to somebody else, especially in Canada, that you can relate to, you know.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned Great Hallwood because did you never go and watch Great Hallwood when Stanley didn't have a team?
Well, no. Actually, my dad played for them in the when he was about 18, 19 back in the 40s. But no, I actually did go see a couple of matches, and that would be in 69, 70. I did go with a few of my mates because they were the one little bar they had, the little pub they had next to a part of the ground was one of the places that would serve kids under 18. You could get a pint in there. So Friday nights, if they play, we'd go down and have a pint and watch the football. So yeah, I did see a bit of it.
Yeah, Brian. So just moving on to Stanley, well, football in general, and I know the answer because you've been you're always on Facebook Memories. So you keep progress of the club, and I know that it's a lot easier now with the internet, etc. And I've spoke to Tony about it was very difficult back in the day getting any news on Accrington and what was happening. I suppose it was difficult, wasn't it, when you first went over to Canada? Oh
yeah, yeah. You just had to sort of phone home and see what's going on, or the internet's made it like it's next door. I managed to catch a couple of games, and I still have it on tape. Actually, I watched the Derby Cup tie a couple of years ago, and then I managed to pick up. I managed to watch the game against Portsmouth last month, the last game of the season, and that was excellent. Yeah, it is so much easier now to watch the games. I mean, right now, what have we got on? I've got 4 games on today. I got to watch, and with the Europeans, and
I've been really enjoying watching the Euro games. I've got I've got 3 TVs in my living room, so at any given time, I'll have all kinds of different games, whether it be football, American football, English football, basketball, baseball, ice hockey, you name it. I watch just about every sport except tennis. I figure that's just kind of like ping pong where you're standing on the table.
And cricket, we've never got you into cricket yet, have we, Phil?
That's one that I just haven't seen enough of or had the ability to really get a team to pick. But with cricket, I know that the matches last a few days sometimes, and I don't know if I could watch something for 3 days. That's kind of one of the problems I have with golf. Is I wish a tournament was just 18 holes, and I'd watch a lot more golf.
No, there's a shorter version played over an evening, 2020 it's called, and it's over 3 or 4 hours and plenty of drinks and a bit of fun, light-hearted. That's the way to get into cricket, and then you can work on the rest. Great.
Yeah, because that's the same length as a baseball game, Phil. So you'd enjoy a 2020 match. I mean, that's it's like Darren said, it's thrilling and a lot more action in a 2020 match than you would say in a 9-inning baseball game.
Well, cricket. Yeah, I love cricket. I played cricket in Accrington when we lived there, and so I went to school. Well, he was a little bit younger than I was, Dave Lloyd. I watched Lloydie and Jack Simmons, who I played football with at Great Arwood. He was a great cricketer, and of course my best buddy Alan Worzick. He was a pro for Accrington for several years. So yeah, I love cricket. I played one game actually in Chilliwack in Canada. A friend of mine who lives in Vancouver said, "We're playing this afternoon. We're one short." I said, "I'll be there." He said, "Have you got any white pants?" I said, "No, but I'll borrow some." So yeah, I like cricket.
Excellent.
One of the things that I don't know whether you want an opinion on it. It'd be interesting to know what your opinion is, and that's the difference between the game today and what it was like in 1960, 70. The football I'm talking about, not cricket. My opinion on the game today, it's totally a different game altogether. Some people say, "Oh, it's a lot faster." Well, I don't think the game itself is faster. I think the training with the coaches and everything is a lot quicker. Players are thinking a lot quicker. But, in my day, you used to be able to kick a player, and they didn't mind. They'd just come back and kick you 5 minutes later, and then you get on with the game. Today, you breathe on them, and they're always screaming. I can't get into that.
When you watch some highlights, Brian, from the 60s or 70 matches, and you see the tackles, if that was today, there'd be nobody left on the pitch. Everybody would have red cards. There'd only be the 2 keepers left.
That's right. I gotta tell you how bad I am. We're playing Great Arwood on the first. I remember this particular match because you don't remember everything, but you do remember things that stick out to you. It was the first day that substitutes were allowed. I think it was 1965, first game of the season, and I was a substitute for Great Arwood, and my other complaint is the referees. I never did like referees, but on this particular day, I was a substitute, and I did question the referee's parentage, I think, once, and he came over and gave me a red card, and I hadn't even got on the park. So I was as a substitute and never played, and I got a red card. Those were different days.
You'd be wearing the dreaded number 12. I used to hate when they used to give the numbers and you were the substitute. You always got number 12.
I'm not sure whether we had numbers at Great Harwood. I'm sure we did, but I never knew what number I had.
Couldn't afford them at Great Harwood.
I think that's kind of been a trend in just about every sport. I mean, I know, I can't speak for association football in the 1970s, but I can say, from the 1980s, certainly what you would see in an NBA basketball game, for instance, I don't think any of the 1980 Detroit Pistons would be on the court by halfway through the game with the rules these days. And I think that's just, kind of how sports in general have gone. And especially, like you said, with the referees and VAR and all that, I'm not a particular fan of it. But speaking of positive changes since the 1970s, the biggest question that I had for you that I really wanted to ask you here at the end is playing in 1970 for Accrington Stanley for the reformed team that was in the 9th tier at that point. Would you have ever envisioned that 50 years later, Accrington Stanley would be a solid member of the 3rd tier? No.
In one word, no. But you know what? The way the things went, my early views of football was Walter Galbraith and all this, and Walter Galbraith was brilliant. But when I see what we've got at Accrington now with Jimmy and John and Andy Holt, what can you say about that man? It's incredible what they've done. And these 3 guys are they're the answer. Accrington have done brilliant, coming along slowly, and now they're where they should be in 1st division. And if we get over next year, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to find Andy Holt, because I've never met the man. I'm going to find Andy Holt and I'm going to buy him a beer or 10. Yeah.
Well, that's what we said when we had him on the show last week. Is Tony and I both wanted to buy Andy a beer, and like you said, I mean, Andy Holt, John Coleman, Jimmy Bell, what those 3 guys have done, especially over the past 3 years since the club has gone up to League One, and the infrastructure, the academy, signing players to longer term contracts, and at this point, we're talking about next season where making the playoffs and hopefully getting to the championship is now something that's being talked about at Accrington Stanley. And, I just want to thank you, because that's one thing that I always like to do is anybody that comes on the show that's been an important part of the club's history is I just want to thank you, because without that 1970 club getting things started off, I don't think any of us would be here right now talking about all the success that Accrington is having right now. So thank you for being such an important part of the club's history.
Hey, there's a lot of people to thank, and it's a long line, and they all deserve it, because that's where Accrington are. Today it's beyond everybody's dream, I think. Yeah. So yeah,
it really is
as well. I thank you guys, because you're keeping the name going. I got to just tell you one thing. I was in, I don't know where I was, somewhere in the not Mediterranean, the other one, Caribbean, and I'm walking up Aruba, and the guy says, "Hi, Accrington." I just should tell you, I also won a shirt in one of the draws, and it's actually Roberts' shirt, and I was wearing it in Aruba, and this guy shouts, "Accrington!" So I went over and I said, "How are you doing?" He said, "Yeah, I've been to Crown Ground many a time." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Halifax." I said, "It's incredible, you meet people all over the world, and now they realise Accrington is definitely a team to play.
It's just fantastic, and that's what we love, is to see the brand growing worldwide. And like you said, what one of our dreams is that one day, no matter where you're at in the world, you walk around and see Accrington Stanley shirts, because I mean, there's just so much in football these days that it's negative, and you hear things where they're trying to put a super league together and everything's all about money. And Accrington Stanley, it's just, I'm not going to say the only, but they're just that club out there that's still about proper football, still about the fans coming to the ground, having a good time on a Saturday, and having everything be affordable. And, like you said, it just starts from the top down, whether it be the chairman, the coaches, the players. I mean, everybody just buys into the concept that is Accrington Stanley. And I think that's really the key to the success.
Yeah. Well, like I say, once again, my congratulations go to everybody who's been involved in Accrington since 1970. It's been a brilliant trip, a long one, but it's been all worthwhile.
Well, and Brian, it's nice that you get somebody like yourself and sort of me in this area, is that we if it takes one person at a time, we sort of make people aware in Canada of the club Accrington Stanley. So I think that's we all play our part, and you played your part, and we thank you for it. And it's been a pleasure for me to chat with somebody from back in that neck of the woods where I'm from, and I wish you all the best, and happy canoeing, and Sunday morning football.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thank you, Brian. Been great to speak to you. Yeah, it's nice that you're still playing football. I'm impressed.
Not as fast as I once was, Darren, but
No, you're still doing a job.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, but you're doing a great job, my friend. The books of yours are, that keeps everything, in perspective. People are just watching it and looking at it and reading the information, and it's still Accrington Stanley, and that's the main thing.
Exactly.
Thanks for the support. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much.
Congratulations to you guys. The three of you keeping all this going and the information flying around. It's been a pleasure for me.
Well, it's a passion. It's not, I mean, we all have one thing in common. We love the club and we love the brand, and we want to make people aware of it. And everybody's just does their little part, like you say, Brian. So, continued on. So. Yeah.
Well, that's perfect timing, because I think my phone's just dying. It's a battery phone.
I thought it was my pacemaker. I'm glad it's your phone.
Well, thank you again, Brian. We really, really enjoyed your time with us today. And like I said, we'd like to finish up with an On Stanley On. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. On Stanley On.
On Stanley On.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to sing the song.
we don't have that in the budget, Brian.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yes, on Stanley On for sure.